Alright guys, continuing on with the house in Fata Morgana. This time we are in a new era with a new master of the mansion who is a bit stuck up, and I use a bit generously. But we're gonna continue on guys and see where it takes us, so I hope you all continue to enjoy watching. Let's do this. Alright guys, we are back. For the love of God. In any event, whatever happened to that printer you invested in? I haven't heard their name come up in some time. Can we please avoid that topic? It's been quite the headache for me. I thought it'd pay off, but it always sounded sketchy to me. I'd recommend you pull out unless you want to find yourself with nothing left but a nice fat pile of debt. Could have mentioned that beforehand. This is killing me. The men's deep voices resonated in the cloudy room. As they imbibed alcohol and puffed on their cigars, they conversed mostly about business and money. Jacopo and the rest of the men were a breed known as investors. You might also call them tacticians. They survived on information attained before anyone else by making swift decisions and having foresight. Though instead of flesh and bone, their soldiers were made of ink and paper. To an outsider, this meeting might appear to be a congregation of friends, but in reality, they were observing one another, gathering information and anything else they could use to get ahead. At times, money and information were exchanged directly. And when they were no longer of financial value to one another, their relationship would pop like a bubble and dissipate into nothing. But you know, Jacopo, you can't be sure this railroad you're so passionate about is going to bear fruit neither. You don't even know if it'll get finished. And even if they do connect the tracks, will it really be in any shape for people to ride? It's a pipe dream that this transcontinental railroad of yours. Jacopo went silent, but I'm certain this is what was going through his head. You're a bunch of damned imbeciles if you can't see that the entire country's put their weight behind this endeavor. This is why you have so much trouble making even a few thousand. At the time, a great railway was being built across the breadth of the continent. Construction was spearheaded by two large rail companies in competition for both prestige and a bigger share of this massive national enterprise. The Union Pacific Railroad Company started building from the east and the Central Pacific Railroad Company from the west. But government bonds alone were not enough to finance the massive undertaking. By the way, there have been some less than pleasant reports about workers dying on the job for the company you chose, Central Pacific. Yeah, mean how they're using explosives to blast through the mountains? Making quite a bang they are. But if this gets to be much bigger of a fix, they're not going to be able to continue construction. You should at least put your money in the more sure bet of the two, the Union Pacific. It'll cost you to hire replacement workers, and if you keep kicking the bucket, you're going to have trouble finding more. My goodness. And here I thought you all had spines. You think we're going to run out of workers just because of a few ate it? Ha! There's so many we don't even know what to do with them all. There's not a chance that well will dry up. And if by some chance it does, all we have to do is buy up a ship full of blacks or yellows. Oh my gosh. I forgot what time period we're in. You won't get anywhere if you spend your time worrying about a few measly laborers. This is an endeavor backed by the entire nation. Their debts are honorable in service of their country. The biggest loss is not of people's lives, but of time. The longer a project takes, the more money it costs, and the less profit we make. What we seek is rapid progress, even if the methods to obtain it are messy or deadly. The other man in the room chuckled uncomfortably at Jacopo's distasteful choice of words. Do you agree with his way of thinking, Master? Perhaps he does have a point in that great sacrifice is necessary to accomplish great things. What is true that tragedy often lies in the shadows of the splendor of times long past. Furthermore, the way people see the world changes with the times, so I hesitate to criticize him too severely. Now, as I'm sure you have already picked up on, he was an investor who had put money into a railroad company. He also possessed several crude oil refineries riding on the world's second wave of industrial development. The mansion too bustles with life in a way it never had before. Dozens of maids, including me, gardeners, chefs, sculptors, artists. All times we even have writers coming in and out of the house. There was rarely a moment of silence. However, I was not terribly fond of the hustle and bustle personally. But please do not get me wrong, I am hardly opposed to the mansion being cheerful. It was just, how should I put it? The splendor of the time seemed superficial, heartless. It was as though everyone was being rushed along by some unknown invisible force. Part of it was, I expect, caused by the growing divide between those standing at the top and sitting at the bottom. Or perhaps the mansion was simply taking after its master. There's no time to waste. Everything is resting upon the success of this project. Whatever it takes, I will ensure it happens. I need more money and more power. Suddenly, a restrained knock on the door stopped his train of thought. From beyond the door came a woman's voice, gentle as a soft spring breeze. Pardon me, I have made some tea. May I offer anyone a cup? Oh, again, she's back. Is she like reincarnating throughout the eras? When the door opened, in stood a beautiful woman with pure white hair. It was indeed her. Are you surprised? Or did you anticipate her appearance? I anticipated it, like the pattern is just becoming more and more apparent. Though she was not the same age and dressed differently, the white-haired girl whom you saw fall into the hands of misfortune in the era of roses and the era of the beast was also present in this era of innovation. Furthermore, she was Jacopo's wife. Or is it Jacopo? Whatever. Tea? I don't recall asking for that. When were you asked to make it? I wasn't, but I had these leaves with the most wonderful aroma, and I thought you might enjoy. Shut your trap and know your place. What do you think we have all these maids for? Hey now. No need to treat your lady like that. She was just trying to be courteous. These are my personal affairs. Please keep your comments to yourself. His friends were unsure how to react, but ultimately nobody stepped up to stop Jacopo. They merely shrugged, tossing glances at one another. Jacopo stomped over to the white-haired girl. He then grabbed her by the arm and dragged her from the den. What the hell do you think you're doing? I've told you time and again to stay away from the room unless absolutely necessary. I'm sorry, but I made tea and... Shut up about the tea already. You think we're having tea parties in there like a bunch of prissy nobles? I'm sorry. If you really feel so bad, don't go in there in the first place. Get the hell back to your room. I meant no harm. It's just, I'm your wife. I thought it would be nice if I could do something. Like I told you, that's not your job. Don't show yourself in front of the other men. I have nothing else to say to you. This guy, man, gonna get decked in the face type of... Got it. Now scram. Sakes alive, first them, now you. It's driving me off the wall. What is it? I told you to get out of here. Right, but, what? When will you spend time with me next? It has been some time since we last went out together. But we don't even have to go out. Just having dinner together would. How many times are you gonna make me repeat myself? You worthless tramp. Are those ears only for show? Oh man, this guy really does need to get decked. Go back to your goddamn room. My apologies. Looking utterly downtrodden, the white-haired girl made her departure. Such piteous sight she was. As he watched her go, Jacopo merely snorted. Just thinking about the way he behaved then angers me. I have little fondness for men who do not treat their spouses with respect. So as you can see, the white-haired girl was in hardly a joyous situation. Well, then again, the pattern is in every era, she's always in like a very upsetting or downbeat situation. It's never uplifting at all. She always has like such a bad history. She was devoted to Jacopo and tried to do whatever she could for him, but he not only brushed her aside, he did so in an insulting, deliberately hurtful manner. They were far from picturesque partners. Do you wonder then, Master, why she married him? The answer to that question will come to light in time. For now, let us follow her. Looking down dejectedly at the undrunken tea, the white-haired girl walked alone down the corridor. Though its calming scent filled the air, there was nobody around to have the heart warmed by it. To have their heart warmed by it. Nor was there anyone to alleviate her loneliness. Despite being the master's wife, the maids who crossed her path in the halls said nary a word to her. As a matter of fact... Oh dear, I beg your pardon, madam. Ah, it's fine. One even bumped into her, stifling a laugh as she trotted off. Aw, come on, really? In all likelihood, she had done it intentionally. The poor white-haired girl who had fallen to the floor stared helplessly at the broken cups. The tea she had made for her husband was forming a stain in the carpet. The maid's behavior toward the mistress of the house was absolutely unacceptable. Nonetheless, it was a commonplace, all because of the way Jacopo treated her. The more the man of the house acted cruel to her, the less weight her position as his wife held to the servants. Day in and day out, the maids worked busily, offered little opportunity for leisure, so they would naturally have accumulated quite a bit of stress. And she became the target for them to let off this steam. Not directly, but through a more subdued kind of harassment from the shadows. She must have felt quite miserable. I imagine she would have been better off as one of the maids. On the surface and in front of others, they showed respect for her as Jacopo's bride, but behind closed doors, they acted very much the opposite. The disparity between the treatment she received and around others, the treatment she was supposed to receive at all times, and the way she was actually treated made the abuse that much worse. And furthermore, as you may have seen through the doors, master, she was a very reserved young woman. She could neither raise her voice in reprimand nor raise her hand in retaliation. I have to get this cleaned up. She extended her spindly fingers towards the shards of shattered porcelain. Ah! But even the broken cup seemed to have no concern to spare for her. Its shattered edge cut her fingertip when she made to pick it up. A trickle of warm red blood ran across her unearthly white skin. As painful a sight as it was, it had a sort of taboo beauty to it. The blood spilling from her fingers showed no signs of slowing down. She clenched her hand into a fist, let out a sigh, and went back to collecting the shards of porcelain. But when she did... Madam! Madam! What's the matter? Ah, madam, you're bleeding! While all the other maids ignored her, one came running over, shouting to the white-haired girl's side. We need to get that cleaned and bandaged up. Oh, you don't need to pick that up. That's not your job, madam. It's alright, Maria. There's not much to pick up. It is not at all alright. And the rest of you, why are you just standing there? Your boss's wife is on her hands and knees and you're not even lifting a finger to help her? You disgust me. But Maria, it's fine, really. Oh, madam. If you weren't so timid, this wouldn't happen. You're allowed to yell at them, you know. It's alright, really. It's my fault. Anyway, we should get that finger taken care of. Let's get you back to your room, okay? Ah, but the broken cups and the spill. As I said, that's the maid's work. Now come on, let's go. Okay. And the rest of you, get this mess cleaned up. She roared like the wind in a thunderstorm. The other maids stood there dumbfounded, watching as she and the white-haired girl disappeared down the hall. But they were soon frowning and grumbling to one another. She thinks she can act all high and mighty just because the master is fond of her. The woman's name was Maria. She was one of the maids. And she was the one in the mansion the white-haired girl could think of as an ally. Though her husband paid her no mind and the maids made her life miserable, just one person, Maria, treated her with respect and kindness. And I am sure you can readily imagine just how much of a lifesaver that was for her. I too found myself somewhat relieved that Maria was there for her. Being a servant of this house, I was also one of the maids working there at the time. However, I was unable to involve myself to any great degree in her fate. You know, I keep thinking she might be part of the mansion, not necessarily part of the maids. That's why you hardly see her helping or around. This meant that there was little I could do to assist her, even in times of pain and unpleasantness. The best I could do was pray that Maria would continue to lend the white-haired girl in her hand. And that does it. Thank you, Maria. You're always such a big help. Oh no need to thank me. I just did what any good maid should do. No one else is in the room, you know. Oh, right, then I can drop the act. Man, I just can't get used to talking all stuffy. I'm out there doing my best, but the head maid's still spouting stuff like, your manner of speaking is improper for a servant. Every single time we meet. Yeesh, come on, shove it, would ya? You're a damn creep. Now, you mustn't speak of her like that. Sorry, slip of the tongue. She's just kinda gives me the willies, you know? Speaking of, you dropped the stuffy talk too, madam. Kinda awkward if only one of us is acting casual, you know? This is normal for me. If I attempted to talk like you, I would freeze up out of nervousness. This is my casual. Fair enough. Guess that's what happens when you're raised well. I like it though. Has a very regal feel about it. I don't think my upbringing is the only factor. But you know, upbringing is important. Worth a whole lot more than money, I'd say. I suppose. Thank you, Maria. You're always so compassionate. You betcha. They don't call me the Virgin Mary for nothing. I practically bleed compassion. You know that might be true. You very well could be the reincarnation of the Mother of God. No, you were supposed to laugh at that. It's just embarrassing if you take it seriously. Alone in the white-haired girl's room, Maria was acting much more friendly and relaxed as they conversed, as opposed to her no-nonsense attitude in the hallway. The two women were, as you can see, quite close. They had crossed over the wall separating master from servant and built a bond of friendship. And at some point they had begun to speak frankly with one another when no one else was around. Maria was the only person in the mansion around whom the white-haired girl felt comfortable being open. I imagine she very much enjoyed these moments of conversation. You wish to know who the head maid was? My. Are you sure you want to ask me that, master? Some questions are better left unasked for your own good. I have to say, madam, you have the prettiest fingers. Mine are all rough and dry and nasty. You think so? Mine haven't the slightest bit of muscle. They're about as frail as dead branches. Oh, who needs beefy mitts anyway? I still think healthy-looking hands like yours are far more attractive. What? What's to like about these things? Women all over the world dream of having hands like yours. Slender, feminine, and perfectly cared for. I don't know, just looking at them lights a fire in my loins. Makes me want to lick every last one of them. Actually, say, can I lick them? Can I run my tongue up and down to all 10 of those sweet little digits? Digits. Come on, can I? What do you say? Is she a dog? Stop that, Maria, seriously. I'm kidding, I'm just kidding. Oh, Maria. Alright, how did those tea leaves turn out, madam? The ones you imported. All the mates just adore it. They can't get enough of that aroma. I'd sure like to get a taste of it. If you end up with extra, you think you could spare a sip for me? That was what was in the cups I dropped. What, really? Well, ain't that a crying shame? And Jacopo wouldn't have any of it? God, why does that man have such a stick up his ass? I like her. I like Maria. You went through all the troubles of making it for him, and he was busy. It's not his fault. Busy? You mean playing billiards, drinking bourbon, and puffing a damn cigar? Can't believe cigarette. It may look to us like they're just making small talk, but I'm certain their meeting has some importance to their business. It was imprudent of me to try and step into the men's world. That's just not right. I mean, you're his wife. Why shouldn't you be allowed into the room? It doesn't bother me. You don't have to pretend. Here's an idea. How would you like to have some of that tea now? We also have some orange marmalade, which you like so much. Add a scoop of that and a tray of cookies, and we have the perfect tea time. You're singing the siren song, madam, but you really should be doing that with him. He would not have tea. I suspect he does not like it. I don't want it to go to waste, so... Madam, I know it's not my business, and I have no place at all saying this, but... It's not impossible for a woman to file a divorce these days. You don't have to sit down and take it, not one bit. You're pretty, well-educated, and still young. There's hope even if you do leave him. There are plenty of other men out there. You aren't obligated to stick with that arrogant jerk. He's just very busy right now. There you go again. There was a time when he was kind. He wasn't like this when we first met. Back then, he was a little awkward, but a kind man. Him? A kind man? Yes, believe it or not, there was indeed a time. Say, Maria, would you mind giving me a little bit more of your time? I'll make some tea and we can talk. Alright. If you're telling me about when Jacopo was decent, I'm all ears. Indeed. Oh, so we're gonna get a story within a story? Storyception? As I'm sure you're aware, our parents arranged our marriage. Before I emigrated to this country to be married, I lived in a misty island nation. Portraits of my ancestors hung in the house where I lived. I remember as a child wincing in fear at the sight of them staring down at me. My mother and father were constantly telling me to show them respect as it was their hard work that kept our bloodline alive and well. However, they were fighting an uphill battle to do the same. It would have been clear to anyone reasonably perceptive that our house was tumbling down. Valuable furniture and paintings slowly disappeared, and eventually the portraits were gone too. As our house collapsed, so too did my parents' health deteriorate, robbing us of any source of income. And though I was educated, I lacked the skills necessary to obtain work. Just as we were about to run out of money and options, my parents received Jacopo's parents' marriage proposition. Both of our families stood to benefit from the arrangement. I had social status, and he had wealth. We each had what the other lacked. One needs more than money to make it in the world. Without at least semi-reputable name attached to you, you're liable to get laughed out of most social gatherings. I first met Jacopo here in this country. We didn't even know what the other looked like until our wedding day. To be quite honest, I was scared to death at first. I was so nervous, what kind of man would he be? Was I to wed some middle-aged stranger? We were not marrying because we had fallen in love like a normal couple. I knew I was in no position to be concerned with such things, but when I thought about our future, I shook with fear. But the man I saw through my veil at the wedding was remarkable. He was young, had strong masculine eyes, and at the same time, he too appeared nervous. He was shaking as much, no, even more than me. Seeing that, the priest gave an impish little smirk when he asked Jacopo if he vowed his eternal love to me. I counted myself among the happy, and I still do. For in that moment, I experienced true love. You wanted to hear about when he was kind to me? Well, after the wedding, we were given a week to ourselves. I suppose you could call it the honeymoon, though we didn't take a trip overseas or even go very far at all. He looked at me with uncertainty and asked, "Where would you like to go?" I beg your pardon? That's what this week is for, right? I'll consider granting your request, so tell me, where would you want to go? This is all so sudden. Nothing? Well, this whole engagement was a spur of the moment. Normally, we would have planned the trip in advance, but unfortunately, our purpose is served so long as we act the part. You must be disappointed you have to plan your honeymoon as it's happening. No, what? Speak clearly. I don't like it when people don't speak their mind. He still sounds like a jerk, but okay. I'm sorry. But I'm happy. Oh, hold on, I missed that part. Hold on. Go to the backlog. Well, you're quite the positive thinker. Okay. Wait, is that the one? No, that's not what I missed out on. Hold on, one more time. Even if this is a political marriage. There you go. Your parents say something to make you think that way? Well, either way, if you're so glad to be in this arrangement, then hurry up and decide on a destination. Though there is a limit to how far we can go. If you want to take a trip, I'll consider it. What, is something funny? It just seemed comical to me that our honeymoon has begun and we're only now deciding where we want to go. Not in a bad way, though. I'm glad our parents didn't arrange everything for us. Perhaps you've heard, but I'm quite sensitive to sunlight and not in the best of health, so it would be rather trying for me to spend the full week out of the house. We couldn't go on a trip, but if it's not too much trouble, speak up. Could you show me around town? I'm new to this country and unfamiliar with its customs, and I'm rather afraid to go wandering about on my own. Show you around? Yes. Would that be possible? On a rare bit of time off, you asked me to show you around town. Is that really the most exciting idea you have? I'm sorry. If there is somewhere you would like to go, I am fine with that. I will accompany you anywhere. As if I could drag someone who just professed to being sickly all over the country. My god, I've lost all interest in a trip. This is your version of nice? He still sounds like a stuck-up jerk. Hello? What are you doing? Get ready, now. I beg your pardon? Didn't you want to see the town? You will show me around? You're the one who asked. Not like I have any other options, so yeah, I'll show you around. Thank you. Don't just stand there, you dullard. Get a move on. Oh, one moment. Wait for me, please. I mean, I kind of get what she's talking about. Like, he has, like, a very slight decent side. It's barely above the surface. He hurriedly climbed into the carriage he had called for, a look of frustrated displeasure on his face. And then, as if he had forgotten about me until that moment, he returned, grabbed me by the arm, and led me to the carriage. In retrospect, I realized he was not being very gentlemanly, but I was pleased that he was making any attempt to interact with me at all. As the carriage trotted down the street, I saw so many new things. I spent most of my time cooped up inside our home, so it was like stepping into an entirely new world. And add to that the rapid industrial advancement currently taking place. I saw men shouting back and forth as they smacked newspaper articles with the backs of their hands. I saw corner cafes crowded with cigar-smoking men on break from work. It was like the hustle and bustle of a festival. But every festival has its underside. I also saw overworked men looking like they were on the verge of collapse, drinking water from a spigot on the side of the road. By way of contrast, I wore fine clothing and had a carriage at my disposal. I imagine every day was a struggle for them just to remain afloat. Had I not married the man I had, I too might have found myself in the streets in a similar situation. But it was not relief that spread through my breast at the sight of them. It was pangs of guilt. It felt to me like a life of opulence was wrong, sinful. It broke my heart to know what I was living so much better than them. Jacopo snored disapprovingly at me, seemingly reading my mind, and then said, "The poor man who envies the rich covets his wealth, and finds the ambition to make the same for himself, and the rich man who pities the poor, thinking it's his duty to give them offerings of philanthropy. To me, the latter is the far more nefarious. Excessive charity will ruin a man, make him come to expect handouts." See, he's not necessarily wrong on that though, so I can attest to that. And then there are those with the wrong idea of pity who let themselves fall down to the same place, mistakenly believing it will somehow make the poor feel better. What a joke. If you're going to do anything for them, you might as well encourage them to climb upward. Spur on economic growth and the flow of capital. Doesn't that sound like a better option? I say nothing, simply smiling and giving an ambiguous nod. He had a point. Oh, missed that. Let's go back. Back. That was pretty good. No, not config. Back. Backlog. My sympathy and guilt meant nothing to people actually experiencing hardship. If feeling guilty of my own fortune, I acted upon that pity in the way he had described, it would accomplish a little more than self-satisfaction. There you go. He seemed to have seen straight through to my very core. This was a man who had built his own fortune through investment, which I imagine required him to be rather astute. But doesn't a world where everyone is constantly trying to climb higher and higher sound rather exhausting? I personally would prefer to be in a position where I could watch, if only from a distance as others climbed. But obviously I could not say as much to him. Sometime later, the carriage came to a stop in front of a shop. As I looked at the building perplexedly, he gestured to the door with his chin, signaling for me to get out. Lost and confused, I stepped down from the carriage, and before me spread a showcase behind a large glass window. However, lined up in the case were not precious metals or expensive clothing, but machines. At first, I had no idea what kind of devices they were. Have you ever had your photo taken before? No. I have had a portrait painted though. Are these machines for taking photographs? A portrait, huh? Why am I not surprised? I did not mean to boast. Go on, get in. Please, wait for me. The owner came out to greet us with a wide smile as we entered the shop. Well, if this ain't the strangest thing I've seen all day. You bring in a lady and a real looker at that. Where on earth did you catch this pretty little thing? She's my wife. Huh. Well, I beg your pardon. I'll be a monkey's uncle. Just goes to show you never know where the cards may fall. You make it sound like my getting married is some kind of miracle. I always saw you as one to choose money over love, sir. Oh, pardon me. This isn't appropriate to say in front of your wife. Do you often come to this shop? On occasion. I need some things here from time to time. I see. There you go, smirking again. What's so funny? We're gonna have our photo taken, yes? I'm so nervous and excited. I never had one before. And to have it taken side by side with you. What are you talking about? Pardon? Who said we were getting our pictures taken? And side by side, please. You're sending shivers down my spine. But this is a photography shop. Hey, shopkeep. The product I contacted you about, is it ready? Oh, yep, sit tight. I'll be right out. You, take a seat. There's a chair over there. What? I'm going to show you something much more exciting than sitting still and waiting in front of a camera lens. Oh. Just do as I say. Okay. I sat down in front of a large mirror, which I presume was normally used to check your appearance before having your picture taken. Sitting before a mirror with someone else present was quite nerve-wracking. Out of embarrassment, I dropped my gaze to my knees. Jacopo returned. I was entranced by the curious object in his hands. What's this? Did you know what persistence of vision is? The human eye does not perceive the world 100% accurately. This is especially true for objects in motion. It remembers images for a short time, so if you put a new image in the same place your eye perceives it as in motion, seeing for yourself will be faster than explaining it. Alright guys, I'm gonna have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. When we come back, we're gonna continue on with this storyception.